Hello and welcome to a brand new video. It's been a while since I posted anything and a lot has changed. For example, there's no engine in my Supra anymore. So I removed that about a month ago, and that has found a new owner, so there's going to be no more of 1UZ Supra. Not from me anyway. And you may wonder, what I'm up to now? Oops. Well, I have this beautiful BMW engine that I did try to fit in, and it absolutely did not want to fit because of various things like the subframes. Just the shape and the size of the sump meant the engine was sitting too high, and I fitted the engine without the sump, and it was still sitting too high, just hitting on the steering rack. And I decided against that wonderful idea. As much as I would have loved to have that project done, and having a BMW engine in a Supra, kind of like the new Supras with the 58, this would have been a period correct engine for the car. But yeah, it's not meant to be. If anyone wants to buy the engine off me, feel free to message me. I will happily sell you it because it's on Marketplace, and so far I've not had anything but time wasters. So moving on from that, it's a 2JZ VVTi. It's only a GE motor. It's nothing spectacular. So for those who don't know, which I'm assuming most of people who are watching this video will know, this is a 2JZ GE naturally aspirated variable valve timing engine that I'm planning on putting in Supra. Probably should have gone with this route to begin with, but you live and learn. Financially, it probably would have made a lot more sense. I can't say I've lost money on the engine, but there were a few bits that I bought for 1UZ that now I have to sell to recoup the cost, one of them being the clutch adapter. Well, the clutch and the gearbox adapter, which again, they're on Marketplace on eBay, so I'm trying to sell them on at the moment. What else? There were obviously timing belts and stuff like that I've changed on the old engine, or on 1UZ engine. And well, the new owner of the engine got a good deal really, because I've added up all the parts that I've put on the engine, like camshaft sensors, seals, starter motor, stuff like that. They basically added up to close to what I sold the engine for. But saying that, the engine didn't cost me anything because I've got it with the donor car, and then I've sold the bits from the donor car, and basically, yeah, it's a long story, but basically I spent a year on that, well, close to a year on that project. I got it driving, so there was satisfaction from that, and I decided not to carry on with it. There were various reasons. I didn't think that I had the ability to fabricate the exhaust manifold in the way I wanted it to, and to pay for someone to do it just doesn't make sense in my eyes. And I enjoy building stuff, and I just didn't feel like my skill set was in the right place to actually do the project. So I gave up on it. And I think giving up on a project is not always a bad thing. I've learned a lot. I learned a lot about the wiring and how stuff works and stuff like that. And I think it's going to make this project a lot easier. So let me talk about this project. So I picked this up actually from a guy who is a friend of the guy who bought my 1UZ engine. And we were talking about, what I'm going to put into this with the engine buyer. And he was like, oh, my friend has a 2JZ for sale. I was like, oh, okay. And we started talking, and I talked to the seller of this engine. And we came to a deal, and I went to pick it up. And here we are. So it's a low mileage 2JZ engine. It's out of a Lexus GS300. So it has the front sump, which is an issue. But generally, the engine, obviously I've painted it now, so I used this stuff, and I'm guessing it's about 1 trillion years old. I wish there was a date on it because I don't remember ever buying it. But it works a treat, so happy days. There was minimal rust on the engine. It's really dry. I didn't have to clean it or anything like that. So I'm happy with the result of that. And I just used some, I think it's Hammerite high temperature paint. No, that's silver. So I just used this heat resistant engine paint. Seems alright so far. Obviously I don't know how it's going to hold up, but I'm happy with the result so far. So intake manifold, that's a Chinesium intake manifold. I was told by someone that this is exactly the same manifold as the branded ones. They just literally have the logo etched onto here, and they sell it as their own brand for a few £100 more. So I just had one imported directly from China. Took a couple of weeks to get delivered. Here, obviously, 2JZ. That's what we want to see. Again, everything's painted. I didn't remove the sump because so that I didn't have to mask anything on the new sump. So I literally just blasted everything over with. Well, I went over with wire brush and then I cleaned it up and painted it. So it looks a bit fresher. It's gonna be nicer to put that in. Obviously, the cam covers, I will get them done in some sort of colour as well. I have ordered the new cam cover gaskets, so once the car is somewhat, or once the engine is in and kind of ready, I will get the cam covers done as well. Moving on from that, obviously a massive throttle body, 90mm. I've quickly put this on, the throttle position sensor, I guess. I don't know how much this needs to open, but that hits onto here, so I'm assuming that's... Well, that seems to be wrong. That surely cannot be wide, full throttle. The fuel rail comes with a kit. Obviously, I'll need to blank this off, so I need to figure out what size this thing is. I believe this is AN fitting, so that's nice. So I'll be able to just put a 90 down and into the filter. Engine mounts. So the engine mounts that I have from the engine, so they look like this. I kind of painted them, and then as I was painting the top side and ready to do the bottom side, I realised that the part numbers for this are completely different between the GS300, or yes, GS300 Mark II and the Supra. So as I was looking at the part numbers, comparing and stuff like that, so there's the engine brackets and the engine mounts. I called both engine mounts, whatever, it makes sense to my head. So as I was comparing the part numbers and stuff like that, I realised that the GS300, both the metal brackets and the engine mounts, are different part numbers, and luckily I had one of the rubber mounts from the engine, so the GS300. Hopefully it all makes sense. And I compared it to the Sora one, it's a completely different one, and yeah, I ended up ordering a brand new set of engine mounts and engine brackets from Australia because it was the quickest shipping. Price wise, it was a bit more than the Amayama website, but on Amayama it comes from Saudi Arabia, I believe, somewhere from Middle East basically, and the shipping time was like a month to 4 months. It was ridiculous long wait. Tried to find used parts, and people are just insane, absolutely insane. They're asking £500 for a set of used mounts, whereas new mounts cost 220. And when you point it out to them, they say, just go buy new ones. So it's like, are you just insane? I literally do not understand that kind of people. So a tip for anyone looking for parts, just check out the part prices for new parts, because often they are cheaper than what people are asking for used stuff. Fair enough if it's discontinued, I understand that. You can kind of call your own price, and then, you know, if someone wants to buy it, they'll buy it. If not, obviously you're going to keep it. But for stuff that's not discontinued, it's absolutely insane to just ask for more money than it is new. And apologise for my rant, it really grinds my gears, that. So the engine mount on the way. The next thing I need is obviously, I guess I didn't mention the most important thing. Obviously, being an A, I decided to start with buying all the bits and just go straight to turbo. Obviously, the VVTi engine, it won't hold, the 500-600 horsepower crank or wheels, whatever, but they're good for 400 horsepower with the stock internals. The pre-VVTi ones, so pre-VVTi GE, they have thicker rods and better pistons, I believe, and there might be lower compression. Don't quote me on that. But mine is none of that. So this engine has quite a high compression ratio, has thin rods, so it's not great for turboing, but it's a start, and then I can upgrade the rods and pistons later on, put a thicker head gasket, etc., etc. But that's a future me problem. So what do we need for the turbo? We need a different, I need exhaust manifold and turbo and oil feed and oil return. That's another day's issue. The intake manifold, I technically didn't need one, but I thought I might as well just go with that route because I can just do the intercooler ones, stuff like that. Then I need engine management. So I ended up ordering a Link Extreme X ECU. I forgot how it was called. So yeah, I've ordered that ECU, and unfortunately it's delayed. And that was my plan over Christmas, to actually start making my own loom. I've ordered the A and B looms. For those who work with Link or have dealt with them in any way, you'll know what those looms are. So it's basically a template of. So the second part to the ECU is the loom, and basically I've ordered a couple of these. So the loom A and loom B, they're quite standard to the Link range, and they basically have the plugs already there with all the wiring. So it's 2.5 meters each, so it kind of gives me plenty of space to work around the engine. Obviously, I will need to add some of my own wiring, such as the power to the injectors and power to the coils, and I think the grounds for both of them, I think. But it gives me a good start of just having the wires there, and it's all pre-wired, crimped nicely, so that should make my life a lot easier. And the last thing that I have acquired is this slightly crusty and rusty clutch. It's a twin organic disc, which is quite important to me. Flywheel and clutch assembly, so it should bolt up to 2JZ no problem, and runs a BMW clutch, which is nice. So that's basically what I'm going to be doing next, after swapping the sump that is in another place, getting painted. So yeah, essentially I need to now swap out the sump, and at that point I will be able to get the engine off the stand, and I will be able to bolt up the flywheel, and probably come across some issues with that, knowing me and knowing my luck. And after the gearbox is bolted up, I do plan on putting the engine into the engine bay and kind of probably leaving it sort of there. I haven't really figured out how I'm going to do it yet, or like what's the best way of approaching it. Because I don't have the engine mount, and delivery time is slightly unknown about it, really, because it took 5 days for the retailer to pack them. I'm not sure. I think I mentioned that it coming from Australia, so it took 5 days for the retailer to package them. Then they emailed me to say, actually, the postage is X amount more. Do you want to pay it, or do you want a refund? And I'm like, I'll have to pay it, because obviously I'm expecting those parts and I need them. So finally, the engine mounts and brackets and whatnot, they're on the way. Hopefully they're gonna get delivered next week, so I will be able to get the engine in place and then continue with everything that I did with the 1UZ really. But this time round, I think I'll be more organised and hopefully it's gonna be an easier project. Probably not, but we'll see. So thank you for watching my rambling for 10-15 minutes, whatever this video is. And I'll see you in the next one when hopefully I can start working on the ECU loop and maybe play around with ECU and maybe get the engine to crank and maybe even start. Who knows? Probably see you in about 2 years' time, but project cars, eh?